right, everybody, it's the Get Tuned podcast. I'm your host, Will Surphlis, and I'm here with AJ from Kung Fu Karaoke. How's it going, AJ?
What's up, Will? It's going well. It's going well despite the restrictions. It's all good.
Yeah. Hopefully, by the time this is released, those restrictions are done with. But who
Yeah,
knows?
exactly.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So you love to sing. First off,
Yeah,
like
man.
I know how much you love to sing and you love music. How early in your life did you realize that that was something that you identified with and something you felt connected to?
I think one thing there's two factors really. Being a Filipino, it's definitely built into our culture, and it's something that being first generation Filipino that my parents continued on when they came to Canada. If there was nothing else that they wanted to teach me, they wanted to make sure to send the message that music is a big part of our lives. And the second factor is church. I grew up and started singing at church. I grew up like in a very Baptist church environment, and so singing was a huge deal for a lot of our worship and things like that. So I really got involved there. It was part of me from really early on. So yeah.
Okay. So, what are some of your influences music-wise? I guess some of those church hymns and gospel stuff would be part of it, but who do you listen to that kind of influences you for what you want to perform and what you sing?
Yeah, well, you know what? So yeah, definitely church was one thing. But I'd also say though, just to add on to the last question, that um, music, and you might relate to this too, but music really was a form of communication. It was almost the same as learning how to speak, and so that was just our way of learning how to speak and to communicate feelings and to vent out frustrations and all that. And so just with family and with church and things like that, it all just kind of came together. But some of my influences growing up, it had to start off with my dad, as well as my sister. They were big on singing. My dad, in fact, was a Elvis impersonator back in the Philippines.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and so one of my very first talent shows in elementary school, I didn't do it, but I remember so vividly. I was like, I want to dress up like Elvis and do that, but I didn't have the guts back then. But then my sister, her and I are about 10 years apart in age. And so she really kind of helped raise me in a sense. She was like second mom, and very great vocalist as well. She got into it, bringing me up in sort of those 80s divas like Whitney Houston and like Mariah Carey and all of them,
Yeah.
Celine. She'd sing those things and totally jam out with me and show me the ropes. So, dad and sister. After that, it was just, I stuck close to Motown, like the Stevie Wonders and like Brian McKnight, Prince, Michael Jackson. Kenny Rogers was definitely playing in the household a lot. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of different influences, but I really stuck to that vocal side of things.
Yeah, and you perform those songs from those artists, I assume, a lot whenever you're
Oh yeah,
playing? Yeah, that's what I figured.
oh yeah, for sure. Especially back in like the early performance days, it was all about trying to do what Stevie Wonder can do, and like Boys to Men and all those guys. So yeah.
Yeah. So, have you ever seen any of these people that you've mentioned in concert, or if not, like, what's your favorite show that you've ever seen live?
Um, I would say, yeah, Boys to Men and all them, but I haven't done too many concerts, but uh, lately I've been to a lot of different country concerts and like Boots and Hearts as well because I'm, digging country nowadays. But my favorite concert, I would say, just because, and I'll explain in a sec, but Bruno Mars, he puts on a damn amazing show just from like not only vocally, but just like visually pleasing and like, those dance moves and instruments and things like all the different lights and thing. I really just want to at concerts. I just want to sit back and just be like, dopamine overload. I want I want those endorphins. And so his show definitely accomplishes that for me. At the last concert I went to, it was just everything. So yeah, Bruno.
Have you heard any of his new stuff that he's been coming out with Anderson .Paak and Silk Sonic?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it is so throwback and so like chill.
Best album of the year, in my
Yeah,
opinion. Yeah, I think
I haven't.
it was the best album of the year for sure.
Yeah, right. I haven't heard it all yet. I'm just. I take it piece by piece, but yeah,
Yeah, there's some big albums this year, right? Taylor Swift redid
yeah,
one of hers, and then Adele came out with another album too. So there's definitely some big stars that are re-coming out with some stuff. But
yeah,
what they've put together is kind of like it's like Uptown Funk became a
yeah.
band.
Oh, absolutely. And I thought that would be a shtick just for like for 5 minutes, but he's made he's brought that signature style. It's his now, but that sort of throwback style and made it cool again.
Yeah, yeah, I love it.
Love it.
So, you kind of mentioned how long you've been singing for. That was one of my questions I was going to ask, but we already touched on that. But how long have you been hosting karaoke for?
You know, you can. I wonder if you'd agree with me on this, but like being a singer and like an instrumentalist musician, we we tend to host ourselves. You know what I mean? Like from early age,
Yeah,
even playing like sets, we become like mini hosts. You're open mics, you're a host, but you're playing music. And so I think like the roots of the hosting really started from like performing at a young age. And then but then formally, I would say like um in like 2001, I hosted a radio show in the Philippines, and that was sort of the start of my formal hosting. Different form of media, but hosted on radio. And then in 2007, I started to actually I had a TV show that aired in like Toronto and Barrie, and it was for a year. We had 52 episodes, and that was my real like first experience of like being a true host, interviewing people, just getting in front of, and this was in front of the camera. And so it's been a mix. I feel like we've been hosting in a lot of different ways for a long time, just being singers. But yeah, 2001 and 2007 was when I really kind of said, yeah, you know what? I like this hosting stuff. And then karaoke just followed after that.
what was the name of the TV show? I never knew this. I've known you for
Yeah.
years and I never knew
So,
this.
you know what? It's one of those things that I cringe a little bit when I watch it, but there's some clips online. It was called Filipino A, which is kind of a touch on Filipino Canadians,
Yeah, I figured.
and
Yeah.
and I was the Canadian representation, the Filipino guy who didn't quite know the language, but it was tons of fun and got me involved in my community. So yeah,
Yeah, and
that's it.
gets you in front of a camera in like a serious kind of
Yeah.
obviously fun but serious environment too, where you're
Oh man. Oh no, for sure. It was such a great experience, and just to be, and that all stemmed from like performances, right? You just do gigs, you do shows, and then somebody watches and says, "Hey, I got a project.
yeah.
Let's work on it." Right? And so that one thing led to another, and it was neat to wake up every Saturday morning and turn on the channel and again cringe at everything that I did, but still, my mom was proud. Things like that. It was nice to do.
Yeah. S- So you've built
Uh,
your Kung Fu Karaoke brand really, really well. You're on top of your social media extremely, and you're always coming out with innovations on your logos and stuff like that, finding new ways to promote yourself. How'd you come up with the name?
all right. Well, you know what? I so this is definitely something that was a little bit of a creative accident, I would say. When I started seriously karaoke hosting, and I started off with the entertainers, and then I decided to go independent and create my own brand and things like that. I was just brainstorming. It came down to two different options. There was going to be karaoke therapy or kung fu karaoke, and I consulted with one of my friends at the time, sat on it for a night, and then next morning I just said, okay, let's go with Kung Fu Karaoke. There's so much I can do with that from like a branding perspective and for just having fun. But to give you a little bit of the thought process behind it is I wanted to represent a little bit of me being pretty much the only Asian or Filipino host in the Durham area for karaoke at least, and so I wanted to celebrate that. And I also wanted to kind of tie in a couple of my passions. So martial arts has always been something I loved growing up, and as well as singing. So Kung Fu Karaoke just rung to me. And then Bruce Lee was the inspiration behind my color scheme of the yellow and the black. And yeah, I mean, I just ran with it, tested it out, and it caught on, and it was really only afterwards that I started to understand and read up on why it worked and how to keep it going. I read a book called The Iconist, that was really talking about how to create like iconic logos, and how to kind of make an impression on people and how to market properly. And I've come to find it, that it essentially you want to make a logo that is pleasing to like a child's eye, and that worked for me for Kung Fu Karaoke with the colors and the print and all that. And yeah, I mean, I just, again, creative accident, and then I studied up afterwards on how to keep it going and how to keep it growing. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Actually, I want to share one other interesting thing is, again, reverse engineering here. After I made Kung Fu Karaoke, I looked up what they actually mean translation wise, and Kung Fu, translated from Chinese to English, basically Kung Fu means to practice a skill, and karaoke in Japanese means empty orchestra. So I thought it was really cool that that added up too, where karaoke can be, a practice place for people to sing, and it's also often um, an empty. Not to say my gigs are always empty, but I mean, it is just, again, it's you're using your background music. You're not in a stadium. You're in a pub. It's a much smaller environment, kind of like not So that's the karaoke piece, empty orchestra. So
Yeah,
it's neat how it kind of all translated.
I like that. I like that a lot. So you're obviously, I didn't have this written down in the questions that I gave you, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it.
All right.
You can answer it or not answer it. It's up to you, and I feel like you probably will. You're really proud of being Filipino. That comes across like immediately when I met you. Also, I'm sure throughout the start of this interview, it comes across a lot. So, like, tell me some things that you're proud of.
Yeah, you know what? I'm just proud of being like involved and just seen, right? And being Filipino happens to be part of who I am, and so I'm proud to represent that, right? But I am also 100% Canadian. The way I put it is that I am systematically Canadian. I grew up in the system, born here, raised here, but I'm fundamentally Filipino. And that is because of my culture and the blood that runs through me and what I've been taught growing up. And some of the things I'm proud about, having this Filipino background is obviously our love for music. Just our, oh, and this is generalizing, but, and I'll generalize just the good things, but generally speaking, we're a very like people first type of culture. And I hope I get to show that a little bit at some of my shows and the relationships I make with like people like you and everyone around me. And just we'll roll up our sleeves and not complain. These are some things that are positive traits, I think, of my culture and what I've learned growing up. But also, there's negative parts of it too, and that's where I think my Canadian growing up and my Canadian upbringing also helps me, because I understand, communication and business side of things, and the nuances of being, somebody growing up in a multicultural sort of Canadian environment. So I really think that both can be true. I can represent myself, but also, I love being representing this country, right? And everything about Canada as well. So, but yeah, I mean, that's it. I love everything.
Well, you're a great representative for both, man.
Thanks, man.
No problem. So I've
Uh,
been to your karaoke shows, obviously. I think that's probably how we met, was me coming out to one of your shows.
yes, I
And
think so.
you're a fantastic host. What do you do to make sure that your shows go consistently well throughout? Because from week to week, moods change and stuff like that. What do you
Oh
do to
yeah.
stay consistent?
You know what? I mean, so I mean, there's a whole lot of factors to like putting together a good show, and um, it all boils down to the vibe, right? And it's about, and what makes up the vibe. It's things like the music and um, you know the sound and any graphics, or and just attitude and how you approach and interact with customers. And so um, end of the day, it's also a business that we want to run, and we want to keep our reputation good. So just like anyone else clocking in to work a day at like retail or corporate environment, there's a customer service element and like a face that I'll always turn on at every show, no matter what the size or how many people are in the crowd. I take this seriously, and I want to, I want Kung Fu Karaoke to succeed, and so I'm going to represent it like a real business, as if it's $1 million business, and that's just my headspace going in. And then you combine that with like just sprinkling in that positivity that's part of who I am, and the customer first that's part of my culture, and it just turns out to be a good show overall. And so yeah, so it's a lot of things, but they're pretty simple. Just it's just all about bringing it every time.
Yeah, yeah. It takes hard work and it takes a caring person, right? A good people person.
Yeah, and I mean, not to. There are some shitty days, right? There are some, there are
Yeah,
some times and gigs when you're just not feeling it. But again, taking it, remembering that, there's a business behind this, and there are people who are relying on you to perform a service. You got to really reach from within and fake it till you make it sometimes. But be professional. That's our version of professional, right? Just like the
yeah,
show must go on, and be cool with everything. So yeah.
yeah. So, when did you start Kung Fu Karaoke?
So I think officially, yeah, 2019, and then officially I registered it in 2020 to make sure the name was mine. But yeah, 2019, February 2019 is when I went out on my own, and Kung Fu Karaoke was born and launched.
Okay, and so what would you like to see, like where would you like to see your brand expand to in the future in the next like 5, 10 years or something like that? Or are you happy with what you've built? I think I know you're happy with what you built, but would you like to see it expand a little bit more?
Yeah, you know what, dude? I'm super happy with what's been built so far and the reputation and all that, but never satisfied. Like end of the day, I think again as musicians, we are natural entrepreneurs selling ourselves in music, and so my mind is always thinking about what's the next step. Like for example, like online, I have an e-commerce website now selling karaoke products. That was one sort of side thing. I also have a logo company that I make, either karaoke flyers or like company logos for people as well. It's called Bamboo Branding Company. That's growing as well, and I help small businesses there. There's just so many things, and as you can tell, I'm not satisfied. There's just so many things that we can do. I don't even know what the next thing really is all the time. But no, I'm not satisfied. I there are dreams. Actually, before the pandemic hit, I had a dream of opening up a kung fu karaoke bar in Durham. And thank God I didn't, because that would have been, timing would have been horrible. But it would have been like not just a karaoke bar with private rooms, but like a venue for performers like yourself and anyone to come in for special events and things like that. That would have been tough, but that kind of vibe is where I wanted to go. I wanted a brick and mortar at one point, but we pivoted, and we got to change direction there. So all that to say, this is definitely not where I karaoke will always be like a core service, but I'm always trying to think of ways to expand the brand for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I figured. I know you're really really innovative. Like I said, with the social media and stuff like that, you're always on top of these type of things and always trying to move forward. So,
Yeah, dude.
yeah. So you used to be in a band that did weddings, right?
Yeah, you know what? I've been all right. So let me clarify. I actually my bands that used to do weddings and we used to perform like all over the place. They were actually not instrumental bands. They were the pictures that the videos you might have seen were my work bands. The what I grew up with was a cappella bands, so groups that had no instruments, and we sang doo-wop, and we did weddings like that, singing, boy band type songs and Motown and things like that. That's actually more what I was involved with. But yes, absolutely, I was in work band, work related bands where we did special events. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So you were like the quartet guys, right?
Yeah, totally.
That's great. So you obviously enjoyed that experience, I'm assuming?
Oh yeah, I mean, we still do it today, like here and there. Everyone's busy. All the my current guy group. I'm trying to avoid saying boy band, but we will get
You
together
can
for
call
special
it a
events.
quartet.
Thank you, thank you. So our quartet, we get together and we still sing a lot. The oldies are so classic, like the doo-wop songs. We always love those. We'll get together for. I think the last time we got to, well, my dad's funeral. He passed away in 2019 as well, and he for that we all got together. And in fact, yeah, so there was actually and some extra guys joined in too, and there were six of us who were singing a
Huh.
cappella music at my dad's like funeral and wake, and that was kind of the last sort of thing that we wanted to kind of do together.
Yeah, I when my next question was there a highlight or major memory that you have from doing that? Obviously, it's not necessarily a highlight being at your father's wake, but I
Yeah,
assume that's still a very close memory to you. Do you have any other major
absolutely.
memories being in that group?
Yeah. Oh man, so many to count, but um, you know what? My biggest performance with not necessarily this group that I work with, but another one when I was younger, was at the time it was called the Sky Dome, so the Rogers Center, I guess, and half of it was rented out for like a big Filipino independence anniversary. I think 100 was there 125 years or something at the time, and yeah, we rented out half of the Sky Dome, a huge event, a lot of different performers. And so I remember performing in front of 15,000 people in the stands
It's a lot of
with a
people.
yeah, and it was with a boy, my my quartet, but we had music, we had actually live band backing us up. So we did like Backstreet Boys and like Blackstreet, like R&B songs, and we had dancers. That was a great memory. I gotta find the VHS. This is a long time ago there, Will. I gotta dig out the VHS a VHS machine and see if I can get that digitalized somehow. But that was a great memory.
Yeah, if you can, I know you might not be able to find it, but if you can before this
Oh
gets
yeah.
released, then I will put a clip up in
Yeah.
it.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'll see what I can find.
sounds good. So, what's your ideal lineup when you perform? If you were to perform with a group or anything like that, would it be just singers, like a quartet style, or would you have some drums, bass, maybe a horn
Oh
section, something
man.
like that, right? Like Bruno Mars style
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what? Actually, I'm glad you brought up Bruno Mars because he has this little troupe, right? I don't know if you've noticed it lately, but like that, yeah, he has him for around for since Uptown Funk. Actually, he's doing all the calls and some harmonies and stuff like that. And I love that kind of vibe because it kind of it's nice to see it in today's music that you can do that where you have one main singer and you got some backup guys in sync with you. Um, I love I love the combination of four vocalists and a full band, meaning drum, bass, guitar, and keys. In my mind, I love that combination so much because it's just so full, and there's so much you can do vocally and instrumentally when there's like a lineup of like four dudes singing, or even a lady, and like a band to back up. That's my ideal.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured that was going to be your answer, which is why I mentioned Bruno Mars because I know that that is definitely
Oh
right
yeah.
up your alley, right?
Oh dude, yeah. Some of them play while they sing too, like
Yeah.
playing like trombones and stuff. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
well, Bruno's really talented. He plays bass and guitar and stuff too, right? So
Yeah,
he
yeah,
doesn't just sing.
yeah. And he's part Filipino. His mom's Filipino.
Ah, there you go. There you go. All right. So that's pretty much getting to the end of our questions here. Do you have a message that you want people to listen to? Anything you want to say to everybody?
I don't know. You know what? I think messages change every year and maybe even by gig. But I think one thing that I was really big on a couple of years ago and still am is, you know, stay vocal and support local was kind of one of my taglines at one point. Um, and then, but nowadays I'm just, it's more about like say less and sing more is kind of the message I want for everyone. There's so much garbage online and in social media, people talking about this and that and controversies. And sometimes I'm just like, shut up, everyone. Let's just sing and have fun. So that's the message I want to say.
I love it. That's a great message. All right, man. Where can we find all your social media stuff?
Cool, man. It's all Kung Fu Karaoke, whether it's on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. You just find us at Kung Fu Karaoke.
What about the e-commerce site that you were talking about?
Oh yes. Oh man, I'm so bad at promoting this, but shop kungfukaraoke.com. I'm now I have time to work on the website a little bit more, but I offer karaoke equipment and like antimicrobial head covers and things like that, sanitizers, things like that. So shop kungfukaraoke.com.
Cool. Sounds good. We'll have the links to all of those in the comments and the description. AJ, thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate your time and your effort that you're
Thanks,
doing
Will.
back home right now to keep things
Yeah, man.
going. Um, yeah. Peace, love, and music, man.
Thank you. You too, bro. Take care and have a safe trip. See you when you get back.
Thank you. I will. All right, everybody. This has been the Get Tuned podcast. I'm your host, Will Surplus. Here today with AJ from